What is happening, everybody? It is Trey here, and I'm joined again today by my dad, Sean, and we are going to look at Nirvana's classic album, Nevermind. Now, as you'll see by my shirt, I am a huge Nirvana fan. I know you haven't heard this record in full.
I haven't. I was definitely alive and well and kicking when this thing was up. Obviously, the hit's very familiar with. Just never really got into that back in the day, even though everyone else was getting into it.
We're going to dive into this detailed track-by-track review, and if this is your first time joining us, we appreciate you stopping by the channel. Here at Reactions to the Classics, we take a look back at some of the most classic records of all time, listen to them a bunch, give you guys a bunch of great facts. Usually it's the first time we've heard the record, not the case with me today, but it's going to be a fun one. And if you'd like to link up with us more, we have our Facebook group linked down below, as well as our Patreon if you'd like to support us and get some exclusive videos and perks yourself. All that to say, let us dive into this monstrous album.
Well, this is their second studio album, released in September of 1991 by DGC Records. It's a subsidiary of Geffen. They had just come over from a Sub Pop, an independent label. There were a lot of record companies that wanted them, but they decided to go with them. They had a goal, the record company had a goal to sell 250,000 copies of this record, Trey. At its height, it was selling 300,000 copies a week. Sold over 30 million records worldwide, one of the best-selling albums of all time. Number 17 on the Rolling Stones top 500 albums of all time. It not only popularized the Seattle grunge movement, but it also brought in alternative rock to the mainstream. Nirvana was formed in 1987 by Kurt Cobain and Chris Novoselic, the bassist. They also had a guy, Chad Channing, on drums. Channing leaves in 1990. They'd already done their debut album on Sub Pop called Bleach. They were in need of a drummer. They had heard this guy play with another band called Scream, Dave Grohl. Scream unexpectedly disbands. Grohl calls up Novoselic. He says, come on up to Seattle. Grohl ends up joining the band right before this album is recorded, and Novoselic has said later on that once Grohl came on board, everything just fell into place.
In early 1990, Nirvana started working on their second album for Sub Pop. It was going to be called Sheet. They were suggested Butch Vig as a producer. They really liked his work and the sound that he was producing for some other acts, and they went to Vig's studio in Wisconsin from April 2nd to 6th in 1990.
Yeah, the hotbed of rock and roll, right? Madison, Wisconsin. So they go there, they record 8 songs. It's a little bit of a mess. They have to go play a gig in Madison, and Cobain strains his voice. And because of that, they didn't finish what they were doing. They had 8 songs in the coffer. They go out on tour. Channing ends up leaving the band, and so they took those 8 songs and they made them into a demo, and they sent them around to all the major record labels, and that created this buzz for Nirvana.
And musically, many of the songs you'll notice switch from more quieter verses into the loud, rocking choruses. And for Kurt, he specifically wanted to focus on writing great melodies, and he would often write the lyrics right up to the 11th hour in the studio, but he said that the music comes first and the lyrics come second.
And many of the experts believe these songs, or most of them, are about Toby Vale, who was a girl Kurt dated for a long time.
And the album cover gotta be one of the most famous of all times. Features obviously a baby going out into a dollar bill on a fishing hook. This guy's name is Spencer Eldon. That sets the stage for what a monumental album this was, not only musically, but in the mainstream culture in the early 90s.
Well, speaking of changing everything, the first track, Smells Like Teen Spirit, number 9 on the Rolling Stones top 500 songs of all time, and number 10 on the Rolling Stones top guitar songs of all time. And most people see the unexpected success of this song propel Nevermind to the tops of the charts. Grunge entered the mainstream, placing Cobain as a reluctant spokesman for Generation X. Nirvana grew so uncomfortable with the success of this song, they would oftentimes omit it from their set list.
The phrase "smells like teen spirit" came from Kurt's friend Kathleen Hanna. She wrote on a wall, "Kurt smells like teen spirit," because there was a deodorant called Teen Spirit that his ex-girlfriend, Toby Vale, wore at the time. Unbeknownst to Kurt, though, it took him a few months after the single was released to know that he thought Smells Like Teen Spirit was just an anthem.
The interesting thing about this song is it did not chart initially. It did well in the areas where Nirvana had a little bit of a fan base, I think Pacific Northwest. It was really meant to just kind of carve out a little alternative rock chart success, and then they were going to come in with a third track on this album, Come As You Are, and they thought that was going to cross over, but boy, that didn't really work out that way because this thing took off.
The lyrics here were a little difficult for the mainstream audiences to understand.
They're still difficult.
Yeah, and this was compounded by the fact that there weren't lyrics included with the album. They were just fragments of the lyrics in the album's liner notes, and so radios were a little bit reluctant to put this track initially into their set list.
Yeah, and even on MTV, this really blew up because MTV put it in heavy rotation. I remember the video being on constantly. MTV actually had subtitles for the lyrics that I'd never seen that before on MTV, that they played during the songs. They thought that would help it get over more. One thing I'll say, there's a lot of people who analyze Kurt's lyrics, analyze the lyrics in this. Grohl talks about, and you mentioned it at the start, but he talked about in this song in particular that Kurt was writing down the finishing lyrics 5 minutes before they cut it. So Grohl said there's nothing to the lyrics in this song. He was just rhyming stuff. The song itself, obviously, it's banging.
Probably anybody who's picked up an electric guitar has tried to play that riff.
Yeah.
And I mean, as soon as you hear it, you obviously know
exactly
what it is. So
and it gets you a little pumped up.
Yeah, exactly. No, it really does have that anthem type quality to it, and the powerful drums come in. Grohl introduces himself in a great manner, and just some great bass lines by Novoselic too that is apparent throughout this whole record. Fun guitar solo, so I don't think he could have started the record off on a more iconic way.
Agreed.
Well, we go from one classic Nirvana track to another with In Bloom, ranked 415th on the Rolling Stones 500 Greatest Songs of All Time. This is ironic because it talks about people in the mainstream that don't understand the band's message, and how apt is that after coming off of Smells Like Teen Spirit, which, just culturally just swept across the nation, and then you have this, with the famous chorus, but he knows not what it means, which I think was probably true for a lot of the quote Nirvana fans during this time.
Cobain on this, he used a Mesa Boogie guitar amp for the verses, and during the choruses, he switches to a Fender Bassman amp for a heavier double-tracked fuzz-tone sound. And so that was amazing. This is my favorite song on the album. This is unbelievable. I had actually never heard this song. There's 3 of the songs on here I was familiar with. This was not one of them. By far my favorite.
Oh, yeah. It's one of my favorites as well, just in their entire catalog. I do like the guitar solo in this as well, one of the more notable ones for me, and just again, we mentioned the quiet verses with the loud choruses. That's on display expertly here as well, with Kurt screaming. Just really gets you fired up yet again, and just has an anthem-like quality to it. Talk about one classic to another. Great way to start this record, because track 3 is Come As You Are.
Yeah, this is one of the 3 songs, Trey, that I was very familiar with. Number 452 on the Rolling Stones Top 500 Songs of All Time. This is the first time we've ever had an album where the first 3 tracks appear on that list.
Yeah.
Think of that list whatever you may, but it's their second top 40 hit in America, second top 10 hit in the UK. Cobain double-tracked his vocals throughout this track. And during the harmony overdub session, Cobain used an electro-harmonic small clone guitar chorus pedal to give his instrument a watery tone during the verses and pre-choruses, which is something that he liked to do a lot throughout this album and in future albums. And this has one of his longest guitar solos.
Yeah, another fun guitar solo here, and that's a great word you described there, Dad, watery. It just fits the tone and the soundscape that this song really was aiming for. I really enjoy this one too. I mean, this is probably in my top 5 Nirvana songs of all time, and the lyrics are interesting because it talks about how come as you are, but as Kurt keeps going through the lyrics, as you were, as I want you to be. So come as you are, but and how often in society do people play yeah man, just be yourself, but
and then they try to form you real quick.
Exactly. So I think he just brought that through the lyrics here in a great way. Again, another great track.
Now we're up to Breed. Cobain actually wrote this in 1989. It was likely inspired by his breakup with Toby Vale, but he personally described Breed as getting into middle America, marrying at 18, getting pregnant, stuck with a baby, and not wanting it.
The highlight of this song for me, it just comes in with Grohl's super fast, powerful drumming. He's great throughout this entire record, and here is, I think, his best drumming performance.
I would agree with that.
I really like this one as well. Fast-paced.
Yeah, it's a banger.
Very punk rock type feel to it, just aggression and ready to run through a wall after you hear this track. And so again, another good track here. Takes us to, yet again, another famous song.
Yeah, I was going to say a song I'm familiar with, Lithium.
This peaked at 64 in the US. Cobain described it as one of those songs I actually did finish while trying to write it instead of taking pieces of my poetry.
Cobain says the song's about a man who, after the death of his girlfriend, turns to religion for comfort as kind of a last resort, so he didn't commit suicide. This is a great song as well. I mean, we started off with 5, either excellent or really good songs.
Oh, absolutely. Again, in my top 10 Nirvana tracks, it again has some of that manic, almost like unhingedness to it. Towards the end, he's saying, I like you, I'm not gonna crack. I love you, I'm not gonna crack. I killed you, I'm not gonna crack. This guy's barely hanging it together, the protagonist of the song. An interesting story told, and again, just some rawness that underlies most of Nirvana's music. And speaking of rawness, we come to a more acoustic-led track, Polly, and this is about the real-life story in the late 80s about the abduction and torture and rape of a 14-year-old girl.
A true story that Cobain read about. It turned his stomach. Cobain was very pro-woman, and he was very much against guys, the macho guys, the guys that think they got it all together. He writes this song. It is a haunting, troubling song, a very good song. Excellent songwriting on this one by Cobain. He writes it from the point of view of the rapist, of the serial rapist. There's blowtorch, there's all this stuff. It's just really difficult in one way to listen to, yet he did such a phenomenal job on it. This is the only track that they used from that first recording session in Madison, Wisconsin with Big. So this actually has Channing playing the drums on it. Kurt is playing a $20 guitar that he bought at a pawn shop and didn't even bother tuning the strings, and that's what's on this recording.
No, I'm going to echo a lot of your thoughts here. This is probably the best songwriting from Cobain on the entire record. Of all the tracks, this is probably the one I revisit least often, just because it is. I mean, this song's heavy. That's the best.
It's heavy, man.
The best
it's
word.
Good. It's heavy. His vocals sound great. Yeah.
Towards the end of the song, the victim comes, fights back, scratches him. The rapist notes how crazy the survival instinct is, and you can just put yourself in that harrowing situation. So a haunting song and a unique song on this record.
Yeah, and in real life, she did get away.
Yeah. Then that takes us to Territorial Pissings. Cobain said he came up with the title based on the fact that in the animal kingdom, the male will often piss in certain areas to claim his territory, and I see macho men reacting towards sex and power in the same way. The song starts off very unique because Novoselic is talking in like voices all kind of high-pitched and different, and almost like Breed in a sense. After that spoken word passage, it just goes fast and heavy. Not one of the top tracks on this record, but it's still there. His Kurt's vocals here are very strained. They crack a lot, and he's just screaming, going in.
He's just going nuts. For me, it's one of the bottom songs for me on this album. It's not bad. He actually co-wrote this with a guy named Chet Powers.
That's right.
It's fine for me. I don't got much else to add to it. That brings us to Drain You, a song that Cobain actually said he thinks is as good or better than Smells Like Teen Spirit. Has more guitar overdubs than any other song on this album. There's a lot of odd noises that he made by squeaky rubber duck and toys and those sorts of things. He said he viewed it as a couple brat kids spending the day in the hospital bed, so that was kind of his take.
More clear, easy to understand vocal performance by Cobain.
Yes.
Starts off a little more fast-paced, and then midway towards the song, we kind of get some interesting tonal shifts. It goes down, and then we ramp back up towards the end. Very relationship type lyrics.
Yeah, I mean, he probably wrote it towards Toby. You're going to drain me. You're going to take everything from me. The lyrics are good on this one as well. I'll point out probably second to Polly on the songwriting.
Yeah, exactly. Just how relationships do, drain you in a sense, especially when they turn south.
Yes.
So definitely a solid track, and then that'll take us to track 9, Lounge Act. And again, this one's written about Toby Vale And it starts,
theme.
yeah, it starts with a great bass solo by Novoselic, and then the theme here is about jealousy. The guy is jealous towards this woman. He'll wait. She can go out, see all the other men she wants, but he still wants her even through all that. This is one of my favorite underrated Nirvana tracks. Bass work is the highlight for me here.
Agreed. Brings us to Stay Away, which is originally titled Pay to Play, based on kind of a protest of these clubs back in the day would charge the bands to play instead of paying them so they could get a little notoriety. This is a little bit more towards fame at this point and other musical acts. Not a bad song at all. It's got a blasphemous last lyric for me as a Christian, so it makes it my least favorite song. He has a little thing to say about God, but it's a pretty good song.
No, I'm with you. This is, if I had to choose, this would be my least favorite track on the record as well. Just a little bit more forgettable musically, in addition to the ending lyric as well. There is an ironic line in there, though. He said every line ends in rhyme, talking about how the pop music industry, but it is ironic because every line in this song ended in a one-syllable rhyme, so just a little bit of a sarcasm here. And then that'll take us to On a Plane. This is an instance where the lyrics were taken from bits and pieces of his poetry, so you know, he even said don't read too much into the lyrics on this one.
Yeah, and it's got Grohl's nice high harmonies on this one. That's kind of a standout of the track. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good.
Yeah, the humming kind of just comes to a head at the very end. Made it a little unique and different from the rest of the album, and I do love that chorus. I'm on a plane, I can't complain. Pretty solid there, which ends with again another stripped back acoustic song, Something in the Way.
And Cobain tried to sing this with the whole band. It just wasn't working out, so he went in the control room with Butch Vig, and he's kind of venting to him, and he's sitting there playing it going, this is how I want it to sound. And Butch, being the smart man, he said, well, hold on just a minute. He set up microphones all around, said, do this again. So he did it 3 times, and we know he didn't like to do multiple takes, but Kurt was fired up because it wasn't sounding like he wanted. Butch kept that, and then he just recorded Novoselic and Grohl later on doing their parts and mixed it all together.
The lyrical content is about a guy living underneath a bridge, and Cobain actually said this was autobiographical, but that was refuted in 2001 by friends. And he actually was homeless at times as a teenager, but he would just crash at friends' houses. Probably top 3 track for me, one of my favorite Nirvana songs. Most of the songs have been high-paced, really getting after it tempo-wise, and then this just kind of halts it, ends it on a more haunting note. Great way to end the record.
And that brings us to our favorite tracks, Trey. For me, it's In Bloom and Come As You Are.
Yeah, it's got to be Something in the Way, Come As You Are, Lithium. I mean, shout out to Lounge Act as well. Pretty much like every single track on this record, and that'll take us to our overall score.
For me, I really enjoyed this album, actually a lot more than I thought I was going to. I'll give it an 8.25.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm really familiar with this record. I hadn't listened to it in a while though, so this was interesting for me to listen to it front to back, and I kind of forgot how great the album was. This is right up my musical style. Every song's pretty much a hit for me. I gotta go a 9.75 on it. You know, it's one of my favorite albums, honestly, of all time.
Culturally, it's a 10 for the difference.
Yeah,
I do recognize that for sure.
Exactly, and I think one of the things is the younger you are when you listen to Nirvana, the more they will probably resonate with you with the teenage or younger 20s, just with some of the lyrical themes and just the musical style of it. And,
so I'm old.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments below, y'all, what you think of Nevermind, your favorite tracks, and we will for sure be having In Utero coming up soon. As always, Dad, appreciate you
enjoyed it.
Diving into this, and be sure y'all to hit that big red subscribe button. We upload twice a week in a variety of genres, and until next time, thank y'all so much for watching. Happy listening, my friends, and we will see you next time.